Welcome to episode 30 of Stageworthy. I'm your host, Phil Rickaby. On Stageworthy, I interview people who make theater, actors, directors, playwrights, and more, and talk to them about everything from why they chose the theater to their work process and anything in between. My guest is Jessica Anderson, a playwright, an arts administrator, and also the interim director of the Hamilton Fringe Festival. Speaking of Hamilton Fringe, my play The Commandment opens at Hamilton Fringe this Friday, July 15th at 10:30 p.m. If you're in the area, I hope you can come and join me. You can find Stageworthy on Facebook and Twitter at StageworthyPod, and you can find the website at stageworthypodcast.com. If you like what you hear, I hope you'll subscribe on iTunes or Google Music or whatever podcast app you use, and consider leaving a comment or rating. Jessica, thanks for coming on the podcast. I wanted to start just by asking you about your history with the Hamilton Fringe and how long you've been with the Fringe.
I've only been with the Fringe since February, so Frostbites was my first week at the Fringe, actually. So it was a great way to jump in, and so I'm the interim festival director while Claire Calman, the ED, is on maternity leave, so I've started on a contract with them to kind of take us through the 13th Fringe Festival while she's taking care of her baby.
Were you involved with Fringe at all before you came as a volunteer or anything like that?
I actually didn't live in Hamilton before that. I was involved as a patron.
Okay.
I've been to the Hamilton Fringe the last few years because I've been part of the Playwrights unit at Theatre Aquarius.
Okay.
So it was my first kind of intro into Hamilton. But I was living in Waterloo at the time. So I started coming more and more to Hamilton twice a month for about 2 years to do this unit. I was like, I like kind of what's going on in Hamilton, and I was like, I think I want to be part of this scene and what's developing here. So when my contract ended in Waterloo, and I thought, where am I going to go? I thought, well, I'm going to come to Hamilton. I had a show in the Studio Series at Aquarius in December. Really liked it here. So I moved in December, and that's when this job posting came up. And so I thought, well, this might be a good way to jump right in to the community. So I applied for the job, and I got the job in January. So that was my sort of history. I was a patron, and because I was involved with other writers in Hamilton, I certainly had been to the Hamilton Fringe a couple of times. And
so as far as your theater career goes, you've been primarily a playwright.
A playwright, yeah.
So, just to kind of get away from the Fringe for a second, what is it that drew you to writing plays?
I was always really quiet. I was a really shy kid, but I always liked drama and theater. So when I was This was my big moment. When I was 10, I wrote a murder mystery play called Murder and Other Problems, and I made my grade 5 class act it out. And I kind of sat and watched, and I was like, it was sort of fun to see my voice in different voices. You know, it gave me a voice without actually having to speak in a weird way. Yeah. And I was like, I like that. Like, I like that I can express myself, but I, that I have this kind of barrier, and I have this ability to almost like become different people. So that's kind of was my first sort of like, oh, I kind of like this, and then, it was successful. It toured to the classroom next door. So, when you can
get a tour like that right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate.
You gotta stick with it, right?
So, and then I got involved with dancing, and they made us take an acting class to perform, and I thought, well, I'm liking theater, so I ended up going to a performing arts high school in Toronto. I was born and raised in Oakville, but I commuted. I was a commuter kid to school. And because of the school, they had playwriting options as one of their English kind of electives. Yeah. So I started playwriting more than, and taking act because I was a drama major. So it was primarily focused on acting, and I kind of, the more actors I got to know, the more I figured out I'm not going to be an actor. I know that. But I did the playwriting course. It ended up going to the Sears Drama Festival, so I kind of did that. I did an undergrad in drama and English, and then was doing that whole, what do I do with this drama degree now, and what do I want to do? And I kind of went back to the writing and thought, I'd really like to do more writing. I didn't do as much of it in university. I took playwriting, but it was mostly essays, and a lot of it was reading and things like that. So I went to college, and I did a graduate certificate in scriptwriting, which was all writing in different mediums. And I thought, I want a portfolio. I want something. I want to learn how to get a job. Yeah. Which college is kind of more, it's more, university was very, this is how you think, and let's discuss the meaning of Hamlet and his external struggle. And college was very much like, this is how you work. Yes. This is how you make money.
Which college did you go to?
I went to Algonquin College.
Okay, cool.
In Ottawa. So, and then from there, I started working on a play. I went to college with this delusion, because I was a theater undergrad, that everybody wanted to do theater, and of course everybody wanted to write movies.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was kind of the theater person in that program. So I started writing a play there, and it took 6 years. But that was my first full-length production from that homework assignment, that 15-page play. Ended up going to play in New York in 2013. And college sort of taught me how to kind of keep going and keep pursuing contests and keep your work out there and kind of how to do that. Yeah. So kind of since then I've been kept on trucking.
It's interesting how when people think, I know I've encountered this a lot, when it's like reading scripts, it always ends up to skew more towards the screenplay or movie than theater. And yet I feel like, I don't know much about the theater scene in Hamilton. I'm hoping to learn a lot today at the Art Crawl and during Fringe. But I know in Toronto there's the storefront and indie theater is kind of exploding and things like that. I would think that I'd be more interested in like writing for the theater than for a movie where the budget is astronomical and there's always like you have to get the camera and things like that. But that's just me.
No, and I mean, I think theater too, it teaches you how to get to the core of a character, because you don't have visual elements to explain your story all the time. You have to kind of think, how am I going to tell this story if I can only tell it through words and character? If there is a small budget, it's great to have budget for set and costumes and all that, but I was never a visual writer, so that's kind of why I was never a good screenwriter. I don't think visually.
I have a similar thing. I think there's a lot of that in playwriting, because you're so used to, really all you have is the words, and the words mostly is what you have on the stage, and a few actions, but you certainly can't have like a big action scene for the most part.
Or if you can, it might be very interpretive. Yes. The director might take some liberty with that. And I think with playwriting too, which is another different thing than screenwriting, is they can't change any of your words. They can certainly change any of your stage directions,
but they can't change your words.
They can't change your words, so it's protected in a way that screenplays aren't, when it's optioned and it all of a sudden becomes someone else's property.
I also find that in playwriting, there's more of an acknowledgement of the collaboration, because I often, like, stage directions are often so minimal, because I know they're going to be ignored or changed. They're taken as a suggestion, so it becomes more of the collaboration.
Yeah, you certainly see that with directors, and you certainly see that in the room too, when it depends on how, it depends on something as simple as what your stage size is. Things might have to change. Or sometimes, it's actors going, I don't feel like I should sit down on that line. Yes. I'm building to this point. Yeah. So, I mean, I try to avoid, if I really want something in, I try to make my stage directions really sparse. I'm like, you have to pay attention to that one, because I only gave you 3, so please acknowledge the...
I also like the constraint of playwriting, because you don't have, you're not going to have a budget, so you have to write with minimalist tendencies, really, in a way that you wouldn't have to for a film.
No, and I think that is part of why a lot of even good movies started as play. I mean, Aaron Sorkin started as a playwright, and and now writes screenplays, but it really lets you focus on storytelling. You really have to focus on the story and the arc of the story, and structurally you cannot get to, if you take away a lot of movies you look at, you take away a lot of the special effects and stuff, there is no core real story. And I think playwriting, whether you want to write for movies or theater or anything like that, it will teach you how to structure, and how to storytell that way. Yeah. And it will teach you to be creative with stage directions. I think Sarah Rule has a play which has one of my favorite stage directions, which is a horse appears on stage, in brackets, a real horse would be nice, but not necessary, kind of thing. Yeah. Which, so you can get creative and and theater lets you do that. Audiences will accept that in a play, will accept kind of representational imagery. Yeah. They don't do that in the movies.
No, they don't. Well, maybe some really weird art house movies, but very rarely.
You're not going to go to Cineplex and see something like that.
No. Another thing that I like that's sort of interesting about that sort of like the minimalist and being able to be a little more interpretive it falls into sort of the fringe aspect in that for most fringe plays you certainly don't have a set, or certainly can't afford one, or if you can, you better make sure you can get that in your 15 minutes and get out in 15 minutes, and so you have to be really economical, which sort of lends more towards the being as minimal as possible with what you have, which leads to some really creative solutions with fringe.
No, and I think you have to kind of think outside the box, and you have to think even as simple as you don't choose your own venue,
Yeah.
You're working with the space that you are given.
Absolutely.
And you could be doing a fringe tour with the same show, and you walk into your third venue and you go, oh, this wasn't like the one in Calgary.
Yeah.
We've got to make some adjustments.
Yeah.
But I think it makes you think about your work too, and think about, okay, what's the best way I can convey the message and the point of this piece. And it makes you think, what is the point of my piece, and what is the most important thing I want to say? Because you have to be, economical with what you're showing and what you're doing in terms of set and costume. So I think it makes you focus on really the message and why do I want to put on this piece, and what do I want to say with this piece?
Yeah.
And it will make you kind of pare that thinking down outside of a huge splashy set or costumes, anything like that. And it really lets people focus on the work in a way that doesn't always happen with, sort of bigger budget productions.
Absolutely. And you have to be flexible.
Yeah.
Because like you said, if you're on a fringe tour and you walk into one venue, you may have to do a little bit of reblocking to make it work with what you have, or even to hit a light, because the lighting situation will be different in every location. So it's really, you always just have to roll with whatever you're given. Is there something that you can think of that makes the Hamilton Fringe unique in the Fringe
world, the Fringe Festival world? What I noticed, I lived in Ottawa for years, and I'm certainly familiar with Toronto and other areas. What is big, I think, with Hamilton in a way, and this is the artistic community in general, is the cross-collaboration between the disciplines. We do a gallery series in the art galleries. The 20-minute shows are there. We partner with the regional theater here. They're one of our venues, and they're very happy to be, and they're one of our big sponsors. You don't see that kind of cross in big urban centers. You don't always see the same, you won't see the same people at film festivals that you see at the Fringe.
Right.
Here you do.
The cross collaboration is interesting because I know, I've toured to a number of Fringe festivals, including Toronto, and in a lot of cases, the disciplines don't cross-pollinate. So you'll find the actors and the dancers do not really socialize much. You often find the dance pieces and the dance groups are in their own place, and occasionally, almost never is there even really contact between them.
Well, one, we're smaller than the Toronto Fringe, so there's that. Our Fringe Club is of the Baltimore House, which is the local, a local hangout for a lot of artists. So there is that kind of, and for instance, this year 2 of our dance pieces are in 2 art galleries. So even if those people aren't in the Fringe, it's dancers working, in conjunction with, kind of by default, the visual art community, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like art crawl is something where you'll go out and you'll talk to, and people will be on the street talking about different things. So you can go up and you can talk to a mixed media specialist, even if you're a theater artist or if you're a ballerina. You can go and you can talk to a filmmaker or a musician. And Hamilton has this, it's collectively, I think, we want to show people what we're doing. And we want people to know that there is something here, and something is growing, and something exciting is happening here. So there is this kind of, you do get the sense that the artistic community as a whole wants to do work together to promote that, and to really, it's not like, well, no, if you're successful, we won't be. It's no, if we do this together, and we keep creating work, and we keep doing it, and we keep showing people, we keep bringing people in, which I think the Fringe is great for bringing people into the city. This is what we're doing, to kind of eliminate any kind of misconceptions or kind of pre-notions people have about Hamilton who've never been here, or maybe know it mostly as a steel town, or something that they pass through on the way to wherever they might be going, that kind of thing.
It's interesting, just the idea, like, because every Fringe is different, and every Fringe has its own way of doing things, so that you find the personality of the Fringe. And you were talking about, like, the audience, and that art crawl helps to build the audience and the collaboration, and that one person doesn't take away from another. When I was doing a show at the Montreal Fringe, they had this seminar on the first, like, even before they opened, the artists were arriving, and they had this seminar about, similar to your publicity seminar, but sort of like giving an idea of what's unique about Montreal. And the one thing that stuck with me, and has always stuck with me, is that there is audience enough for everyone. That it's like you said, your success does not diminish my success. Your success can help my success. And I think that's very Fringe.
It's very Fringe, and I think, audience builds audience. I mean, there is this sort of, sometimes you see it in the bigger urban centers, and that, no, you're going to take away my audience, and if you go to this show instead of this show, or even you go to big regional instead of Fringe, right? We're dividing audience, and I don't think that's true. I think if you generate interest in the art, people want to see more of it, and they want to understand where it comes from. And it is a way to generate interest, and the more people we have interested in the community as a whole, the more audience we will build that way.
It's like going to a movie does not mean that you're not going to go to another movie.
Exactly.
And I think that theaters, that independent theaters especially, would benefit from more collaborative promotion. That they could, I talk about your show, you talk about my show. We each have our audiences, and then we each have a bigger audience because we're sharing. Because
we build, and it's one of those things. Just because you go to a big budget movie doesn't mean you're not going to go to an independent movie. You can share that. But there is this, and Fringe is great for that, because you will see, especially in Hamilton, there is a lot of, after a show, hey, this is the next show in this venue, you should check it out. Or hey, if you liked our show and we're kind of a fun farce, these other guys are doing improv at a different venue. Maybe go check them out. I as a patron at the Fringe, like, that was great. After shows, I would see people, anybody here another Fringe artist, anybody want to plug a show? And people would stand up and and say, yes, I'm here to see these guys, but if you want to come check me out, or I'm here to talk to you. And there is that sense of, let's get as many people out, and let's get as many people into downtown Hamilton, and let them, show them what it's like, basically, when the artists take over downtown, because that's what we do. It's not a huge downtown, and we're over 11 venues, and we're spread out a little bit, but we're pretty concentrated, so it's a good way to sort of see what's going on downtown, too.
It looks to me like you could walk to most venues in about, from one venue to another, 20 minutes at the most, it looks like.
At the most.
Yeah.
And people think some of those 20-minute venues are farther, because, like, we are very concentrated.
It's interesting, because that's a little bit like the Edmonton Fringe, which is very the venues are all concentrated in one area of the city, so that the hardest ones to get to are actually the bring your own venues, because everything is, like, concentrated in this one area, which is amazing.
It's the same as us. Or bring your own venue at the Staircase, I believe, like, geographically is the farthest venue, but it's got 3 theaters in it, so there's lots of programming.
That's great. You guys do something that is similar to something that Montreal has done for years. Your kickoff, you do something similar to their Fringe for a while. You have people present
previews
of their shows. That's also a fundraiser for Fringe as well. Am I correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Has that always been part of Fringe here?
No, this is the 3rd year we're doing it. London does it as well, and what we've found, and it's a good way to kind of get people out. It's a good way for audience to kind of decide what they want to see too, and it's a good way to kind of introduce the Fringe to the community. And I know in one of the first years they did it, politicians came and they had a kind of a contest to see the more money they raised, the better the Shakespearean monologue they got. They got to play they had to play a villain if they didn't raise so much money, and they got to play one of the lovers or one of the heroes if they did. So that was kind of a fun thing for them to do. And so there's a different theme every year. Last year, because of the Pan Am Games, it was Let the Games Begin, and there were improv games, and the cheerleading squad from McMaster came. So it's kind of a theme thing, and it's also a way to celebrate the Fringe and kind of get everybody. A lot of the artists don't get the chance to meet each other because their they don't cross over, their schedules, match, and a lot of people who would love to see a lot of work can't because they're in the actual Fringe. So it's a nice way too for the artists to get to meet each other and see what other people are doing, and it's a nice way for Hamilton to kind of see what the Fringe is. Not everybody knows exactly what a Fringe is, so it's a nice way to be like, no, this is what you're going to see, and you could see anything. Like, look at the variety we have, because there is dance, there's magic, there's improv, there's theater, there's, solo shows, there's new work, there is, work by Sarah Kane, and, that's kind of an important thing. You get a real spectrum of the variety of what's going to happen in the 11 days on that night.
And the actors, the performers getting together and being able to meet each other is an important part of any Fringe, but it's hard, like you're saying, it's hard to do. Montreal has the 13th Hour, which is a sort of like a night, a talk show, variety show that happens at like midnight, followed by a dance party. I didn't really have the energy to do that. I'm far too old, but it was very one of those things. But it's always that's where the actors, that's where performers would meet, is by going to that, or running into each other. We do have a Fringe club where we do have theme nights like that at the Baltimore House, which is just on King William, which is, it's literally at the epicenter of all the venues. So we do have that for the performers. So that is something that is popular, and we're encouraging, more and more people to come out every year, and audience members too. It's nice when audience can meet the artists, and that's something about Hamilton Fringe that you wouldn't necessarily see with Toronto as much, is that they would interact a little bit more because they're not heading right to the TTC, right? They're downtown for the day. They're not coming in real quick for one show. You like, everything is closed, so you can literally Fringe for the day and walk around downtown. And I do find that the Fringe Club at the Toronto Fringe is a little bit exclusive, that somebody who was not from the community wouldn't quite feel at home there. It's a little too inside baseball.
I see.
Like,
I've been to the Fringe Club at Toronto.
There's a lot. It sounds like there's a lot that sets the Hamilton Fringe festival apart from some of the other ones, and as well as just Hamilton itself. Are there things that you're looking forward to? This is like, you've been the interim artistic director of the Fringe since February.
Yep.
And so you've done your Frostbites.
I didn't do Frostbites. Claire, I kind of came in she had planned this great site-specific winter festival, and that was kind of, I officially started as the interim festival director in March, and I came in to sort of help with Frostbites, just to be a set of hands in February. So Claire curated that, which was just really exciting. It was Hamilton's first site-specific winter festival, which was exciting. And so it was a great way to start and kind of see what the vision of the future was, and where Claire had kind of built some of her programming. And so, but I'm really looking forward to seeing, what's exciting for me is I kind of started right at the time where we were just getting in the tech riders, we were just getting in the publicity, we were just starting to, put together the programming. So I've sort of seen just the beginnings, and I've seen it build, and now I'm seeing people who are tweeting and putting videos out about their rehearsals, and I'm watching them go from literally pieces of paper to these productions that are building, and I'm really excited to see. It's kind of like watching somebody grow up, sort of a little bit, and seeing how seeing what these shows become and what the programming is all going to look like together, because we have such. It's like any Fringe, but we have such a wide spectrum of programming this year that I'm really excited to see what the different shows bring to the table and how they complement each other and what people are going to want to see. And so I'm excited to experience it, almost as a patron.
Do you get to watch shows?
We do. We're busy. But me and the general manager have sort of agreed that we're going to try to let each other see some shows. Like, there is always somebody in the Fringe office during the Fringe. That happens, and that's, I think everybody would want it that way.
Absolutely, yeah.
But hopefully if the companies are willing, there will be opportunities to see rehearsals, and that's part of the reason I'm excited for the kickoff, because I won't get to see all 48 shows.
Of course.
So, but if all 48 come and do a preview, I'm at least going to get a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that's why the kickoff is great too. It's selfishly, it's good for me because I can see what's going to happen in the next 11 days.
Yeah. How important are the art crawls to Fringe? Because there's two right before Fringe. You've got the one that's tonight, we're recording this in June, and one July 8th, which is, I would imagine that one would be hugely important.
That one's huge for the Fringe, and it's huge for the Fringe companies as well. And because we encourage the companies to come out and get postcards and buttons from us, but we also encourage them to go out as a company and really promote under the branch of the Fringe. Yeah. So we sort of we're there more as support to promote the companies and to promote people to come downtown and to get a binge pass or get a pass and see more than one thing. And that's a big one for us too. And we really do encourage people, it's like, don't just invite your friends, like, come and say, if you're coming downtown to see this, come see this. It's a chance to experience something new for the first time. It's $10. If you really don't like it, it was $10. But why not? This is the time and this is the place to experience something you might not have been sure of. And it's interesting to watch how the different companies promote their different shows and things like that.
It's always interesting because I know for myself, I never have a problem with the $10. I know that it's only $10. I always get a little nervous about the 90-minute category myself, because if it's $10 for an hour, I always feel like if it's an hour, if I don't like it, it's only an hour. Something about passing that 60-minute mark, if it's bad, if it's not good, it's one of those painful moments. Yeah.
We do have 4 90-minute slots, and which is interesting now because we're seeing it in the world of professional theater that the 90-minute one act is very rapidly replacing the 2-hour show with intermission.
That's actually very true in the indie theater. I see that a lot.
Yeah. So I actually think it's actually good because it kind of this is what professional theaters are picking up. So I think those slots are good, and I mean, it's like anything else. Sometimes shows can feel too long if they're 10 minutes. If they're of a certain quality.
That's true.
But it can be fun, and we do have the 90-minute slots. We also have a 20-minute gallery series, so you can go and check out. You can see the shorter shows or the longer shows, and you can kind of balance out. And it's quite amazing what people can say in 20 minutes, and then the 90 minutes. This year I think they sound interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the longer shows are like and what they're about.
Are there returning companies that you enjoy watching?
I know Ryan Ciero's company, Make Art Theater. They tend to do the Fringe every year, and they always have some fun stuff going on. I've been the last couple of years, and that's the one I've seen return, or they've made it in through the lottery, last couple of years. But I know that people do come out to see them, and they usually do fun shows, and they're known in the community as well as they do shows outside of the Fringe. So they're doing a show this year, so it'll be interesting to see. They did Shakespeare last year.
Nice.
So they did a condensed version of Much Ado About Nothing. This year it's an original script, so it's always interesting to see what, when you're kind of going back and forth between that kind of programming, what people do and how they're different and how people approach doing a pre-written work as opposed to brand new work.
Nice, yeah, that's interesting. As a recent transplant to Hamilton, and I mean, you came here like twice a month before you moved here. Yes. But now that you live here, what's the biggest thing that surprised you about Hamilton when you lived here? Once you started living here?
That's a good question. I think the big thing that did surprise me was just how not that this was to be unexpected, but how easy it was to talk to people about the arts and how proud people were to be from Hamilton. Not that you shouldn't be proud, but, you know, I went to talk to, you know, somebody at City Hall, and she sat down with me and she was like, I got to tell you about the restaurant scene, I got to tell you about the cultural scene. She was excited to share their city. People are really proud here, and they're really easy to talk to, and they're really easy, you know, as somebody new who I'd lived in Ottawa for years. I knew a couple people here, but not that many. How many people I was able to call and were like, yeah, I'll meet you for coffee, and didn't know me. Yeah, sure. Oh yeah, I want it, and we're excited. Like, I want to tell you why you should move here and why you should stay here. And people are really, really excited about what's going on here, and there is that energy, and you don't feel that energy when you're only here twice a month, but you certainly feel it when you're here, and people go, no, you have to, you have to stay here, you have to be part of what's going on right now. And not just artistically, people are excited about, you know, the hospitality industry here and things I didn't know, like, you know, there are hiking trails in Hamilton, which is not something that is widely associated, but they're beautiful and all that kind of thing. So I think and it's a very distinctive landscape. I'm from Oakville, not to bash on Oakville, but there are parts of Oakville where I could just as easily be in Barrie, because I know that store is there, and it's all lined up, and it's the same thing. Hamilton, there is never any doubt, no matter where you go in the city, that you are in Hamilton. It's very distinctive, like physically and visually, because of the escarpment, and just because of the nature of the way the businesses are. Like, there's a very specific aesthetic and feel that there's no doubt that you're in Hamilton. Culturally, you know, it is its own thing.
Great. I really want to thank you for talking to me today.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you.